They're not going to go through with any more of the executions. And, of course, her husband's murderer is scheduled to be executed this Thursday. Here now is part 3. Earlier today, I was in Grady, Arkansas, right down the road from this prison. Here is more of my interview with Genie Boren.
If he would have been already executed, I don't know, say 15 years ago, or instead of 20, or maybe maybe a year after he was sentenced or something like that, I mean, would you have closure, you think, at this point?
Well, I'm not really sure what closure is. I mean, I don't think we're going to, the minute he dies, that he's going to leave our mind. I think we will always think about that. But I think we'll have a little peace, to know that he can't do something like that again. He's already killed 4 people, and he's supposedly become a Christian and is a minister. I don't know who he ministers to, because he's supposed to be in Supermax in a cell for 23 hours a day, but that's not for me to make that judgment if he's become a preacher or not. But he used the excuse to get out to go to church or do something the morning that he escaped. So, I feel like if he ever gets out again, he'll revert right back to what he was.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I saw it. I was doing some reading on this, and I saw that the Pine Bluff commercial, they reported on the 2005 letter where he claimed to be a born-again Christian.
Right.
And
he did tell them about another murder that he had committed.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
or they never might have never
true.
known.
That's true. He confessed to another murder they didn't know about.
Right.
And so at this point, would you agree that, if he is in fact a Christian, that
he should be ready to meet his maker?
Exactly. It's in God's hands.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things I've been, going back and forth over, and I just kind of rest in in God's sovereignty over the whole situation.
And so many with the protesters against the death penalty and things I read on Facebook, I probably should just stay off of it, but say, they don't believe in the death penalty. And there was a really long article in there about it, and I just had to make a comment that, if any of these protesters had lost their father, their husband, the grandfather to their children, I think they would have a different attitude about this. I don't know that they would. Some people still say that they don't like the death penalty when they've lost someone, but it's something to ponder, because if you haven't walked in our shoes, you just don't know how we feel.
And I can see behind you, you've got 3 grandchildren in that photograph right there.
That's it, yeah.
And they haven't had their grandfather here all this time.
My granddaughter Morgan was 6 years old at the time.
There's all this talk about the inmates, because it's not just Kenneth Williams. There are others, and there was one last week, and it doesn't seem like the media is focusing very much on the victims, the ones who actually have lost something. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, personally, I don't care if they ever mention me at all in this, because it's not for notoriety or anything else. We're just trying to get through this. So, yeah, I've noticed that it's all about cruel and unusual punishment and that type of thing. I don't think one of the murderers stopped to think about the pain and treatment that they were given to the victims.
Yeah, I don't.
Actually, with Kenneth Williams, my husband was way out in the back working. He could have come up here. My husband kept a gun in his truck, a lot of money in his truck. I'm sure the key was either in the truck or where he could have found it quickly. And here, he could have left with all that. I guess it wasn't going to give him enough time to get away. But he didn't have to do it. He could have tied Cecile up. Because he caught him unaware. He was fixing to walk in this door after coming in from the gardening. And there were other routes he could have taken. And I read where Dominique and heard and her friend that he drove away a little ways and then thought he just wanted to know how it would be to kill somebody. You know, he could have walked. He could have driven off and taken their stuff, and it would have taken him a while to get back to town, and he would have, you know, maybe gotten caught, maybe not. I don't know, but he thought nothing of these people's lives. You know, I wouldn't treat my pets that, you know, I would never shoot a pet even.
Yeah.
And I don't know how a human can shoot another human when they've done them no wrong.
And yet, there's a lot of this talk about the drugs that are used, the cocktail that's used to put these men to death, and yet you look at the violence that they used to put,
Right.
and they weren't worried. And it just seems so strange that we're so concerned about this drug or that drug, and the drug company now saying you can't use it for that, and you know you kind of just wonder, wow, our priorities seem to be completely out of whack.
That's correct. Is it tonight when they have the executions of the two?
Yes, they're
scheduled.
It's scheduled for tonight,
Right.
And then
I'm just so afraid that the medicine's not going to work properly on them, as they've said, because they were so big, and then mess up. You know, then they'll stop. And
yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That's
Kenneth
a concern.
Williams.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, because that is the concern, that you have some big inmates,
Right.
and maybe it's not going to work on them.
Right. So it worked good the other night, apparently, just from what I've read. So hopefully that they will be able to. And I don't know, because they could come up with all kind of appeals of some type, but I can't think of that many appeals that Kenneth Williams could come up with. You know, other than the drugs they've talked about over and over, and he's been involved in all of those. So we'll just see, you know, and if not, this time, maybe next time.
Right.
You know, we're not like thinking it's going to happen for sure, because we don't want to be that disappointed. But hopefully this time it will happen.
You know, I just, from a personal standpoint, I have no problem with the death penalty. It did kind of make me a little uneasy to try to, at first, you know, to try to kind of compact it all into such a short amount of time, especially with how sensitive everybody is. And I was like, well, I don't even think this is ever going to get done, just because people, I think it's a minority of people, but they are so vocal about it. You know, they're louder than I think the majority of folks who do agree with the death penalty. But I was kind of just uncomfortable of the assembly line. But actually, honestly, I just have to say, Mrs. Boren, after talking to you and actually, you know, seeing a victim firsthand, it's like, you know, that is such a insignificant concern when you think about it.
It's been like almost 18 long years. And got one child with two that have graduated, one that's gotten married, one that's fixing to have a baby any day now, a grandchild. And you think about that, you know, the fact that he's had to miss all that, and they've missed it. So
yeah. Well, Genie Boren, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I really do appreciate it.
All right, so that was earlier today in Grady, Arkansas, right down the road from the prison where they will attempt to execute Jack Jones and Marcel Williams tonight.